Hello and welcome to another new episode of Learning Simplified. Today in this tutorial, we are going to learn about CSS animation. Now what is this CSS animation? CSS animations let the developer to animate any HTML element. This animation does not use inclusion of any other external programming languages as we have seen in case of a JavaScript or a Flash object. Now in the earlier ages of web design and development, JavaScript or Flash was required to animate any object into our web pages. But with the advent of new HTML semantic language, that means this HTML5 and CSS3 animation technique, animation is now to some extent possible without the usage of them. Now this indeed is an advantage in the performance of your site. It actually provides you with a faster response of your site. So that is why CSS3 is of course a better option. The definition of CSS animation is it lets an element gradually change its style from one element into other. Now consider the example of changing the width of a particular HTML block level element. At the time of loading the page, suppose the width of the element is 100 pixels, but after some moments, it is 100% of the browsing element. Or in the other hand, let's assume that the background color is changed from red to yellow within a specified time. We can change as many as CSS properties we want. Any CSS properties means literally anything. Now these changes in styles can be done in two ways. The first one is we are specifying some keyframes and we are specifying certain properties associated to it. We also have to mention the time span for the changes in properties. This will indulge into some animation in CSS style properties. But in the second case, we will have to use all the rest of these properties like transition, transform, translate, etc. The term transition means change of properties from one state into another due to some action, such as mouse hover or hovering action into the element. And this is accompanied with a duration of transition. This might confuse you with a normal hovering action. This may be true in some essence. Hovering action involves changes in properties from one state to another, but without any time span specified to it. This in-time specification added to the change of state of properties is also known as transition. Transition stays as long as the event or action takes place. We will first limit ourselves to know the animation with keyframes, and then we'll be knowing about the animation without keyframes. First of all, let's buzz into this animation with keyframes. Now, as for example, in the first case, we will be starting with a simple change of background color from one keyframe to another. In referring this, we will bind the animation to the div element or wherever we wish to use our animation onto. We need to specify the animation name and the time duration along with the properties regarding them. In the first case, let's make amendment to the div as per need. Now if we get back into our project, this is the stylesheet.css and we can see that this is the test position which is specified as a width of 100%. That means this particular div will be covering the whole width of your display device. And inside it, we will be now creating a test position child 1 element, which will be having, for say, a width of 100 pixels, a height of 100 pixels. And on the other hand, we have seen previously that we have used an attribute selector which says that any selector name which has a keyword of position at the end of that particular selector name it will be having all these properties such as this background, this border, padding, margin bottom or anything inside it. So we are going to use them. But in the first case, inside this test position child 1, all we are going to do, we are going to put some properties there. We have already created this width, this height, and now all we are going to do, we are going to create this background property which is red. Now we have created this child element here. So inside this index.html, all we are now going to do, we are going to create our child element as test position child 1. There it goes. So let's make sure that we are using the same selector name here. There it goes. This is the test position child 1. We are using it over here. Now let's close this thing. So we have created a child element inside this particular test position block element. Now if we get back to our project and reload, we can see now that we have created this div of test position 1, and inside it we have created this particular box. Now we need to animate this box. So if we now get back to our project, this is the stylesheet.css. Now all we are doing here, as we have told previously, that we have to create an animation name. That is why we have created this animation name here, which will be known as change prop. So we have created this animation name as change prop. We will be providing an animation duration. This is the animation duration. We are putting it to 5 seconds. That means the length of this animation will be 5 seconds. This is the animation duration. At the bottom, we are putting this particular at the rate of keyframes. So this is the syntax that creates all this animation into the desired element that you wish to animate. So we wish to animate this test position child 1, and we have already provided this change prop animation name here. So this is the animation name that we are going to use throughout. We are copying it, and you can see that at the rate of keyframes, then comes this identifier. So the identifier name is here change prop. So we are going to use it over here. There it goes. Now what are we about to animate? This is the thing that you need to specify here. So in the first case, all we are going to do, we are going to say that the background was red. We can see that in this particular case, the background was red. This is the output. Red is the background. So this is the thing in the first case that we need to mention, and we are mentioning that from this red background, it is now going to change into a background of what? Yellow. So now we have specified that this at the rate of keyframes, which will target an animation name of change prop. It will be changing its background from red to yellow. Now if we get back to our project and reload, we can see that now already this red box, it was now changing into a yellow one. Reload again and observe the animation output here. So it is changed to yellow, and then it goes back to the normal state. Now in the second case, before we move into anything, the first thing is that